After a car crash caused by speeding, a woman feared the worst but then witnessed a miracle in the form of a dog. In the quaint town of Pavo, Georgia, Audrey Guest had lived for as long as she could remember. She shared a home with her husband, and like most neighbors, they quietly kept to themselves. On the 26th of January, Audrey went through a life-changing experience. During that evening, she got into an argument with her husband. Although quarreling is quite common within relationships, this fight ended up escalating very quickly. It was too much for Audrey to handle. After it went down, what Audrey wanted above all else was some space. Audrey left the house and headed towards her car. A nighttime drive sounded like the ideal thing to cool off. She jumped into the car and sped off. Although she had been driving for years and knew the rules, safety was the last thing on her mind. She was angry. This seemed like the perfect outlet, and so she accelerated. Her heart pounded against her chest as she drove faster and faster. If you were to visit Georgia, you would notice how woodsy some of the areas are. There is an abundance of fully grown trees in this state. And while this is usually something to appreciate, there are times when this can pose a problem for travelers or drivers. Georgia is also known for its windy roads, which are long and curvy. Coupled with the countless trees, people should be cautious, especially when driving down the infamous NASCAR road. Audrey ended up on that road. Although she had heard of all the warnings surrounding this area, the emotions from the argument still had her in a high-strung state. Although safety wasn't the first thing on her mind, Audrey still tried to follow the windy path to the best of her ability. The first time she approached a strong curve, she was able to turn the car around with no problem. Then she needed to make another turn. She would soon come to learn that this one was nothing like the last. When I came into the second curve, the car fishtailed, Audrey recalled. In an instant, her world flipped. She was flung out of the driver's seat, thrown through the back glass, and hit her head, losing consciousness. When she woke up again, her head was spinning, and she couldn't make sense of the hazy situation around her. Audrey could feel her legs in the back seat while her torso was twisted awkwardly, and she was trapped. Because of the way my car went into the trees, anyone who was coming wouldn't see me, she said. Her car had swerved so deeply into the woods that the only way it could be noticed was if someone walked by. Passing cars would have been too fast to notice anything amiss. When she realized no one was coming, Audrey began to panic, thinking of her husband and their recent fight. About how much she regretted the drive that had led her to where she was. Her body was weak, and she used the remaining strength she had left to cry. Just as Audrey had begun to give up, a wandering dog suddenly approached the car. This is how the dying woman got rescued from a car crash by a homeless dog. She genuinely believed that she was stuck there, and that no one would find her until it was too late. When reflecting on this moment, Audrey said, "I don't know if he was making his rounds. I don't know if he was headed back to his original owner, but he came across me, and I thank God that he did." The dog dragged her over 100 feet to get help, and because of this amazing act of kindness, the woman's life was saved. The mysterious animal pulled her all the way from the trees and across the grass. Finally, they reached the area just beside the road. There was a significantly better chance of Audrey finding help while in that spot, since drivers were more likely to see her. However, Audrey still felt as if she needed to do more than lie down on the ground and wait for a car to come by. Inspired by the furry animal's determination, Audrey tried to push herself off of the ground. Understandably, she struggled at first. Nevertheless, the canine wouldn't give up on her. And so, he moved closer and leaned down slightly, as if offering his neck to her. Audrey wrapped her arms around the dog's neck and pulled to the best of her ability. For the first time since the car accident, Audrey stood up. She could feel the wind against her hair and skin. It was a cold night and she wasn't wearing many layers. Despite that, she was warmed simply by the thought that this dog had gone out of its way for her sake. They stood together, waiting for someone to come by. While Audrey held on to the stable canine, a vehicle finally approached in the darkness. She couldn't clearly see what kind of vehicle it was, but she was overjoyed. As it slowed down near her and the dog, she leaned into the window with all her remaining strength and pleaded with the passengers, "I just wrecked my car. Will you please call my husband?" The effort proved too much for her fragile condition, and she quickly passed out again. While she was unconscious, the strangers inside the vehicle swiftly made calls and ensured she received the help she desperately needed. Medical assistance arrived promptly, and Audrey was transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. Audrey was out for some time. The next time she opened her eyes, she found herself lying on a hospital bed. Her head was still spinning and her vision hazy, but she felt a sense of relief wash over her. Alerted that she had woken up, a doctor soon came to her side and gently recounted what had happened. Though her vision was blurred from sleep, Audrey could make out the doctor's worried expression as he reassured her that she was safe and would recover with proper care. "Audrey," the doctor said her name cautiously. "You've got a small bleed in the brain." After the stressful news, the doctors and nurses had to figure out whether their new patient needed surgery. Brain hemorrhages can be very serious, so they wanted to make the best decision possible to ensure that Audrey would be okay. During the wait, Audrey lay awake in bed. Although she had been resting, her mind wandered back to the fight. The crash and the dog who had saved her life, everything that had happened within the last 24 hours felt like a dream. A few hours passed before the doctor returned to Audrey's room. Fortunately, the medics confirmed that the bleed was not a big one and that so long as she rested, her body would heal itself. This meant that she didn't require any expensive or risky surgery and that she was free to go home in the comfort of her house and with the support of her husband. Audrey was able to fully recover. "This dog, he did everything, and it is such a wonderful animal. It is. If he hadn't saved me, I wouldn't be here today," said Audrey. Audrey couldn't praise the canine enough. Although she initially assumed he had an owner, the dog was actually a stray. Nevertheless, after his heroic act, people could no longer ignore this remarkable dog. While Audrey recovered from her injuries, the Humane Society took in the canine, and he quickly attracted a lot of attention, ultimately finding a loving home through adoption. Since then, he has been given a name that perfectly reflects his character, Victor. Victor was adopted by Haley Druid, a canine search and rescue trainer who proved to be the ideal owner for this heroic dog. Haley immediately began training Victor, intending to transform him into a certified, mission-ready search dog. Together, they embarked on a new chapter, ensuring that Victor's bravery and heroism would continue to shine in the service of others. "We're training him for the wilderness right now. He is doing really, really well," explained Haley. "It's amazing to think that Victor was able to put himself out there and search for someone in need of help without any form of training." Everyone could see how pure his heart was. Audrey shared her story during an interview, and the video was uploaded onto the internet soon after. Since then, it has amassed thousands of views. Towards the end of the video, Audrey cried tears of happiness. As she showed her appreciation for the dog who helped her, "He will always be my Victor." What an incredible story. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.